Can we? So everyone Tom wants to be all pissy pants over here because I'm talking about Vladimir Putin.
Tom's been quiet for a while.
Good. That's why we're doing well today. Now
here
Tom,
we
relax.
go.
We're joking here, guys.
You know what, dude? Sometimes you're like France. You're like France. You're a member of NATO, but you're a pain in the ass to everybody else.
The PBD podcast got very heated discussing the whole Putin-Ukraine situation and multiple other situations here as well here on the PBD podcast. Patrick Bet-David was forced. Adam forced his hand here. He had to put Adam in his place here because the things that Adam was saying on this episode are just so woke, so insane that Patrick Bet-David was forced to put his co-host in his place here on the PBD podcast and the Valuetainment YouTube channel. Let's get in this clip here where things got very heated on the PBD podcast and Patrick Bet-David had to go after his own co-host and Adam because of just how woke he was being. Let's check this out.
Putin worth $200 billion.
That's my boy.
That's your guy.
I know it. It's my guy.
Unless we hold him to account, he'll keep stealing and he'll keep thieving in this kleptomaniac autocracy that's called Russia. Keep in mind one thing. The president of Russia, pull this up, Rob, pull up salary. The president of Russia makes about $135,000 a year. In America, it's $400,000. You know, right, it was right there. $120,000 per annum, not in rubles. How is someone that makes that amount of money worth $200 billion?
I love that you're bringing this up. So this leads me to one thing. If this is what you really believe about that people who do this, then in 2024 on November 5th, you're only voting for one person because that one person is not using the government's money to run. That one person used his own money to run.
RFK you're talking about?
Not RFK. Oh. That guy's using...
Nikki?
No, it's only one
Trump.
guy. You know who he is. So, meanwhile, if you want to find that net worth before and after, Rob, if you want to pull up, Obama's, Clinton's, and Biden's net worth before and
Bernie
after.
Bernie or Pelosi.
If you can do this will be a great exercise for Adam because I like where Adam's going with it.
Any of them are billionaires, I'd be shocked.
Well, if
but
you can,
$200 billion, richest man in the world.
That's the one right there. So zoom in that one right there. So that's pretty interesting. So Trump's net worth before running $4.5 billion. Now it's $2 billion. Obama's $3 million. Now $40 million. Clinton's $500,000. Now $100 million. And then you got Biden's is on that list as well. So, you're kind of interesting the angle and direction you're taking. I didn't think you were going to be this bold this morning with this story, specifically the fact that it impacts America. And the difference between us and them is you're right. In a communistic nation, you can steal more and get away with it because there is less regulation. In a country like ours that there's more regulation, you have to be more deceptive and conniving and more slick to be able to steal money. And you got to give respect if you're saying your value in the fact that you don't like people going into politics and then all of a sudden becoming rich and having houses in Hawaii and paddleboarding. You take a day off, you don't take a day off, and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean that's a very, very good political point you just made right there, Mr. Adam.
You bring up a great point,
yeah.
And I as someone that minored and double majored in sarcasm, I see what you're doing. I respect you. There's a big difference between, and not that I'm advocating, there's a big difference between 40 million, 100 million, and $200 billion.
There's a difference because
it's a principle, though. Like, it's the principle of how they're getting the money they're really discussing here. It's not about the actual amount of money. It's the principle of the thing. And PBD is correct here. But also, he's even more correct than I think Patrick Bet-David even realizes, or that anybody realizes on the PBD podcast realizes here. Because it's, okay, they play by different rules over there in Russia. And we know that. And for sure they play different rules. But as we've realized over the last few years, especially we've realized at a ton, it seems like there's been a singularity of us realizing these things, that we get fed just as much propaganda as a lot of these other countries who we used to laugh at and look down upon because their government feeds them propaganda. And they view us and other countries in a certain way, and they view their own country in a certain way as a result of that propaganda. We are also a victim in America of this same sort of propaganda that we didn't really realize as much until a few years ago, especially... I mean, I think 2020 was kind of like the singularity of this. A lot of events happened there of how much we're actually lied to. So not only do Russians and Putin and play by different rules than Americans, but also we're just fed this propaganda that probably makes Russia and Putin seem a whole lot worse than they actually are. So whenever people like Tucker Carlson go over there and visit Russia and interview Putin, he gets in trouble. Why? Because we're actually getting insight as to what it's like to live in Russia. We're actually getting insight as to who Vladimir Putin actually is, rather than just having to take our government and the propaganda machine in the United States' word for it. So Patrick Bet-David is correct in that they play by different rules, but also I think he's a lot more correct than he even realizes because of the amount of propaganda that is fed to us and in America.
Here's the real difference, homeboy. The difference is that's a guesstimated. The difference here is this is audited. So do you
question this guesstimation?
Of
From
course
Fox
I question.
Business?
Question
Of
everything.
course I question the guesstimation. Will I say he's worth a couple $2 billion? Yes. Would I say he has used the power that he has to take money away XYZ? Yes. But you know what else that does? If you're going to go there, no problem. Would I say no one's increased their net worth more because this person's learned his habits from Putin? You know who's probably gotten the richest if that guesstimation applies to people that steal money from their government and nobody catches them? There's this guy down the street from Russia, okay? They're like a block away from each other. What's this guy's name? Zelensky.
Oh, the guy with the green
So you know
shirts?
what? The Zelensky guy has probably increased his net worth the most the last 2 years, Adam, if that's correct. And I think probably maybe Putin behind closed doors angry because Zelensky is getting richer than him. Because there is no way in the history of mankind we've had a better beggar, a better fundraiser, a better guy that goes around and raising money and pleading and crying and all this stuff. And then somehow, some way, he's getting richer and doing commercials with clothes that cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 with him and his beautiful wife.
This might get uncomfortable.
Here we go.
If you were the president of Ukraine.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Yeah.
Your name was PBD Zelensky.
Okay.
And you were invaded by this thug called Vladimir Putin. What would you do?
What do you mean?
Would you not go beg, plead, borrow money? Would you not appeal to NATO and your European allies? Would you not try to go and basically market yourself to the world as, help me out here, I've been invaded?
You just,
what would you do?
You just changed the story.
I'm asking you a question.
No, you're changing the story.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is, one could make the argument for Zelensky also being one of the richest people in the world who's stealing money, and that's speculation. What Fox is also doing is they're speculating. By the way, a speculation that the world probably believes in. No one's questioning that. But the difference is we don't have law and order in Russia the way we have law and order in America, which is why we like law and order. But for you to believe that if the law and order and the ability and the control was available to the Clintons and Obamas and others to create that kind of wealth, they're probably going to sleep at night envious that they can't steal that kind of money and use their politics to make a lot of money.
With all due respect,
themselves.
my CEO, my friend Patrick Bet-David, this has nothing to do with the Clintons and Obamas, and we can talk about
But
that.
it does, though. No, it does.
And
though.
I believe they should be held to account.
But they're not going.
They're never going to.
They're not going to.
Okay. Okay, can we? So everyone wants to. Tom wants to be all pissy pants over here because I'm talking about Vladimir Putin.
Tom's been quiet for a while.
Good. That's why we're doing well today. Now the.
Here
Tom,
we
relax.
go.
We're joking here, guys.
You know what, dude? Sometimes you're like France. You're like France. You're a member of NATO, but you're a pain in the ass to everybody else.
Good one, Tom. No one understood that one.
Yes, they
but
did.
here's my question. Can everyone be wrong, but can Putin be way more wrong? So here's a question before you answer that.
Listen, this guy's a former KGB member. I don't know how many times I have to tell you, he's a gangster. Yeah. You know what gangsters do?
They do gangster shit.
They do gangster stuff, RICO. But then RICO laws don't apply to politicians. Do you not understand that? Do you not understand that the way to go into, you start off and you say, I want to make a lot of money. If you start off and you say, I want to make a lot of money, or you want to have a lot of power. If you want to make a lot of money, you go into business, you have to bust your ass, build equity, work your ass up for a couple of decades, and then you're going to have some money, right? But if you go in politics, how do you make money in politics? How do you actually make money in politics?
Crony capitalism, lobbyists, it's shady business. I agree.
Which means the part that I'm agreeing with you is anybody who has been a lifelong member of politics, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and they get rich, they're stealing from you, period. Anybody that all of a sudden creates that kind of wealth, that's what they're doing. By the way, do you know who invests?
Also, like, the reason why I disagree with Adam here so much and why I agree with Patrick Bet-David so much, and let me know in the comments who you agree with and who you disagree with. I'm sure it's going to be very split. The reason why I agree with PBD here so much and disagree with Adam is because Putin isn't stealing from me. Why do I care, right? You know who is stealing from me? Zelensky and Ukraine and all these other countries that we've been funding with our tax dollars. I mean, I'm glad that the current administration has done something about that. But as I spend my money, it just feels like there's tax. I don't even want to get into the taxes part. But where was all that money going? Right now, it's a Putin. We're not sending him any money. We're sending it to Zelensky in Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And that's why I don't understand why people like Adam, who makes a lot of money. Why are you so mad about Putin getting rich off of his people when he's not getting rich off of us? Zelensky was getting rich off of us. And that's why I find it to be a woke take, a virtue signaling take, because the Putin bad take is just an easy one to have. And it's like, yeah, obviously not the greatest guy with the greatest morals, but I mean, if you're gonna defend him, defend Zelensky in Ukraine when you attack Putin, and I don't think we should be defending those people. I think they're all our enemies, personally. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Ukraine is probably more of an enemy at this point into our pockets than Russia is. Not that I think, or I know for a fact it's true. And I'm more worried about me. I'm being selfish here. And I think we should all be more selfish here as a country. Instead of trying to play the hero to the entire world, we should be more selfish. Each one of us should be more selfish and say, who is taking money out of our pockets? Who is being detrimental to us right here, right now? And the answer is not Vladimir Putin. He's not trying to invade the U.S. He's not trying to take money out of your pockets. Maybe he would hypothetically, if you make a logical argument, I guess hypothetically that eventually he would try and invade us if we let him do whatever he wants. But as of right now, that's not a problem that we have. They're really not. But what is a problem that we have is our tax dollars going to nonsensical wars, funding bloodshed that we haven't found a resolution to. That hopefully this administration can put an end to, because the last one clearly wasn't, and nobody voted for any of this. And just, oh man, let me know in the comments what you think about this stuff, though. I'm curious to hear. Let's get back into it.
NVIDIA right before. Can you type in NVIDIA and type in Pelosi? You ever heard of these people called Pelosi and NVIDIA?
Nancy?
If you type in NVIDIA and you type in Pelosi, okay?
Oh, there she is.
Let's see when was
this is a month ago. Nancy Pelosi disclosed a 7-figure bet on NVIDIA over the Christmas holiday, despite recent efforts to permanently ban lawmakers from trading stocks. What a great timing, Nancy Pelosi.
Guys,
the point is, he's doing it at much higher levels than others. You know why, though? One reason. Law and order, because he can. And guess who else doesn't have law and order? Ukraine, because he can. Guess who else doesn't have law and order? China, because they can. Guess who else doesn't have law and order? Iran. You know what Khamenei's are worth? Type in Khamenei net worth. Khamenei is a very traditional American last name, Rob, so you should know how to spell it. Khamenei starts with K-H. Khamenei
Spit on the mic, Pat.
Khamenei net worth, family net worth, okay? If you type in
Who's that fisherman?
Rob, I can't believe you can't spell Khamenei.
Right there, go right there. No, second one, Rob. Just go to the second one. U.S. claims Khamenei controls wealth over what? $200 billion. They're richer than Putin. What's the point here? These stories, this is 5 years ago. If these guys were worth $200 billion 5 years ago, they're probably worth $600 billion today, $400 billion today. These are not new stories. Politicians in countries that lack law and order become richer than politicians in countries that there's law and order.
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier with the propaganda. We are fed big bad Putin propaganda. He's this evil thug, and I might not be entirely wrong, but there's two sides to every story, two sides of the same coin in these situations, and we're so focused on Putin, we're hyper focused. All of our propaganda is against them. Even when Trump's trying to talk to him, Tucker Carlson trying to talk to him, they get in trouble with the government and other politicians, supreme leaders. You could call yourself, Iran calls himself, but that he's also more money than Putin, and nobody talks about him. We don't ever hear about him. It makes you wonder, why is all this propaganda being spread about Putin? And then specifically, anyway, let me know in the comments who you agree with, who you disagree with. I'm sure this one will be very divisive here in the comments. Looking forward to seeing it. Let me know what you think about the PBD podcast and the Valuetainment channel. Do you agree with Patrick Bet-David, or do you agree with Adam? I'll see you in the next one.